I'm gonna be real with you all. It's Romania Black, and this doesn't feel like the last episode of Land of the Lustrous. No, not at all. It feels so weird. I'm gonna put my phone over there. There we go. As I'm recording this, I've got a couple things to talk about as far as the manga goes, because I definitely want to react to the manga, because this does not feel like the end of the anime. It doesn't feel like this should be the last episode, which is so frustrating to me. But if you've probably seen in my other videos and on my community post and on Patreon, a week ago today, my power went out and I was out of power for 3 days, and it was fine. I had a gas stove. I was not cold. I was doing great. I just didn't have electricity and was living my Amish life eating bread and crackers. Because you can't make anything, if you don't have a gas stove, or oven rather. So I had a gas heater and I was fine with that, but I didn't have any, it was fine. I was fine. But unfortunately, the internet pole that is outside down my road completely fell down during the ice storm, which was really bad. And so they have put up a new pole, but they haven't hooked anything up yet. And we got 6 inches of snow like 2 days later. So the good news is I've been snowed in my house. And so I haven't had any need to go anywhere, and I have electricity. So thanks to special patrons, Liam Poles, who got me this episode, obviously, and then Edgar and Reiki, they've supplied me with episodes for the channel. So I've been able to record and edit using like a tiny hotspot that has barely any power, but enough power to edit. So that's the big thing. And so I've been doing fine. I've been great. But as far as the manga reactions go for Land of the Lustrous, I need to figure out how to do those, if I can get them on my Kindle and then download them and then bring them here and download them to my computer and do it that way. That seems like the most practical way to do it. I'm going to be experimenting at work this week during my lunch break to see if I can do that. And my hope is that next week to have a volume out to react to and to catch up and start from there. But what I'm saying is it may take me a little bit if my internet is not being cooperative, and if I can't do that step, it may be a couple weeks into February and later on when I get to the manga. So please know, I am going to get to the manga, but if it doesn't happen next week, it's not that I'm not doing it, it's just that I'm trying to prepare and get things organized. So what I don't want is a bunch of comments being like, where manga at? And me be like, well, if you'd let me not be anxious. That's basically what I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to avoid all of the useless comments that are like, where manga at? Why are you not doing manga? Are you doing manga? Yes, the answer is yes. But please be patient with me. You all have been so kind and considerate, but please bear with me. Hopefully it's out next week and it goes off without a hitch, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that just in case. But with that being said, I have 2 comments to talk about before we start this episode that are from episode 8. So luckily I've been able to react a little bit ahead. So hopefully by the time you watch this video, I've figured out the whole manga thing, or I have internet, whatever the case may be. I always like to prepare. That's the teacher in me. I like to prepare a little bit for the worst and then hope for the best, right? So I have 2 comments from episode 8, and the other comments you all have for episodes 9 through 12, don't worry. As I go through the manga, I will be able to address those comments. So we should be good there. But Mr. Doppio96 says that Phos's voice actress actually sings the ending. So it is Phos singing it. I'm like, oh, that adds another layer of heartbreak. Because the ending's very melancholy. But yeah, and I feel it's going to be even more melancholy for this episode. And then Aiken, they say external trivia. Platinum, gold, and mercury are successive elements on the periodic table. They're 78, 79, and 80. Okay. This is not a spoiler at all, I feel, but if I'm remembering something from high school science, which I was not a science person, science and math's my worst subject, with that and geography, but science is like, I'm definitely more of a humanities person. That side of my brain reacts better. But if I'm remembering correctly, I feel like elements on the periodic table that were sequential next to each other, I don't think they react well. I could be wrong on that. I don't want to look it up because it seems like it'd be a spoiler, but if I'm remembering correctly, like things on the periodic table that are right in sequence, do they not react well together? It would be, of course, poetic justice for if mercury and gold and platinum, which gold and platinum is what the alloy that is now making up a large portion of Phos, if they didn't react well, that would just be more poetic cruelty the show could put on us. It wouldn't do that, would it? Probably would. But we'll see where that goes. We'll see how that goes, especially going into this 12th episode where it seems like things might be going down, and I don't know how to feel about that. Again, before we start, I feel like it's going to go one of two ways, right? I feel like it's going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to be the situation where it just ends like another series I watched earlier this last year where it's just an episode and it just kind of ends like it would, and you're like, okay, well, season 2 whenever that happens, and then it's been 10 years. Or it's going to go the other route where they're going to give it an ending and it's not going to be reflective of how the manga actually keeps going. So I'm preparing myself for the ending that's not an ending, and then when we get to the manga, it'll be like retconning all of that, but I don't know exactly how that's going to go. Or it could just end and be like a normal episode and you're like, well, tune in next time, and then next time hasn't happened unless you read the manga. So we'll just have to wait and see. But a special thanks to Liam Poles. I know you downloaded all of the episodes for this, and that's super kind of you to give me these ahead of time. You can delete them now if you still have them on your drive, because I have them all now. But thank you so much. That was so kind of you, and it really helped me to watch this series because I absolutely love this series, and I'm really excited to get into the manga when I can. So I'm definitely gonna be researching a lot of how to get to the manga because I don't know if I'm gonna be able to wait on that too long. But anyway, with that being said, I'm really excited. I hope you all are as well. Thank you all so much for your support and your kindness watching this series. It's been great and not spoiling me. Also, thanks to the moderator, Floor, for checking this series and making sure Be Happy has been the moderator for this series. Sorry. Be Happy has been the moderator for Land of the Lustrous. I have Land of the Lustrous and Doro on the same day, and Floor moderates Doro and Be Happy moderates Land of the Lustrous. For some reason, I imagine Floor being a Land of the Lustrous watcher. For some reason. And maybe they are. My brain right now ready to go. Anyway, with that being said, I've got my coffee poured. I've got my anxiety high. And I'm ready to see what this season finale gives us. It doesn't feel like a finale. I got this pulled up today and I was like, this doesn't feel like the end. And I don't feel sad because I know I still have the manga to go. So I guess maybe that's why. But with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to start episode 12 of Land of the Lustrous. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's do it to it. Well, that ended a lot better than I thought it was going to. That's kind of honestly the best route that I think a series can go on if they're going to be that way. If a series, I'm going to try to adjust this to my mic. If a series is going to go the route of just ending a season and it's not planning on continuing, I think that was the most diplomatic, pageant winning route you could have gone, because what I was really afraid of was that they were going to just have this dramatic rushed ending to give some crazy closure or like leave on a crazy cliffhanger. And I'm really glad that's not the route that they went. I'm glad that they went this route and just being like, okay, it did feel like a season finale. It did feel like it was closing one chapter, opening a new one, giving lots of opportunity for the series to expand. I was really happy about that. So that was the good thing. I was like, okay, cool. We are setting things up. Nice. But in that same regard, I did feel like it just left off and you're like, oh, but there could be so much more. And so I did a little bit of research before starting this discussion. When I say a little bit of research, I mean bare bones. Because again, I like going in as blind as possible, especially in uncharted territory like the manga. So what I do know is that I can basically on my own time read volumes 1 through 4, which I was kind of wondering about because usually a 12 episode season of something usually covers like 3 to 4 volumes of manga. Typically, depending on the pacing, depending on how much they pace, not always. Sometimes you can stretch it out real good if you want to on some series, but in previous 12 episode series, it's usually like 3 to 4 volumes. I'm like, okay, all right. So basically, I could read volumes 1 through 4 make my notes, anything extra or different or things that I note, things like that. I can do that on my own time. And then it said there, the very brief, again, I like went to one source and was like, okay, we're good. Said that around chapter 30 was where you could stop. And that's all I read. And I know chapter 30 is within volume 5. So what I think I will do is in my own time, take my notes, read volumes 1 through 4, do that kind of research, let y'all know if anything stands out, and then come back and do like a volume 1 through 4 review, volume 5 reaction, and go from there. And there are 13 volumes total. So doable, but we shall see how my internet and all this works out. I'll keep y'all updated. I definitely think the February update video on the channel will have a lot of information about what I'm going to do. So we'll just tune in for that channel update to see what I end up doing. But that's my plan, is to do volumes 1 through 4 in my own time to read, and then pick up at volume 5 and go from there, which will give us like 2 more months of Land of the Lustrous. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with going with Land of the Lustrous till end of April into my birthday month. Yes. My birthday gem is Emerald. So, you know, we haven't seen Emerald. Maybe we will. Who knows? But man, talking about this episode, I love Pad. I'm going to call them Pad because their name is very hard for me to say. But I freaking love Pad. I love everything about them. They have Hanji's voice actor. Hanji is a character in Attack on Titan, but also voices other characters. Hanji is a very good voice actress, or Hanji's voice actress is very good because she voices a lot of non-binary characters, and she has such a beautiful voice, and it just has this like richness to it. And I feel like for Pad being one of the older gems, that voice is so perfect because it has this like maturity to it. It has this rich depth to it, but there's also like kind of like a little playful hint to it, but also kind of scary. Yes, love this voice actress and their job with Pad. As soon as they started talking, I was like, oh, of course we have that voice actress, and watch me be wrong and that not be the voice actress. But still, seeing Rutile as emotional as they are around Pad is so insane. And I'm gonna be taking screenshots as I talk with you all through this. But seeing Rutile be so emotional about Pad and the statistics that we get with them, and them saying, well, I guess, do I look fancy this time? What's interesting is that in itself kind of relates a little bit to Phos, because the way that Pad talks, it's like they've been having all these surgeries, they've been reworked, they've been put back together. So we don't exactly, as the audience, know what they originally looked like. This is just what we think. So that's interesting in itself. I think that's neat how they do that. And then, yeah, Padparadscha. They're going to be called Pad or Patty. And it's like, how do you feel? And they're like, oh, I feel fantastic. And then they said, how long has it been? And for Rutile to spit off 231 years, 11 months, and 1 day. You are in love, Gemstone. Gemstone, you are in love with Pad. If you can get down to the day, how long they've been asleep. And they said Rutile is also very old too, because Rutile gave up in the last episode the information that every time they try to bring Pad back, it takes a little longer. So Rutile's pretty old. Rutile's been around probably around the same time as Yellow Diamond and them. And they're like, oh wow, they're like, that's a stunning new record. Like they keep bringing it back and it gets longer and longer, right? And Rutile says, I've operated on you 300,030 times. That's a lot. And I know that that's not, it doesn't mean that Pad's been brought back 300,000 times, because that would be, you know, that equate that Rutile's 300,000 years old or more. No, that's not it. But it's the fact that Rutile has made all these surgeries over this amount of time to try to keep bringing their friend back. I feel like one thing that I would love Phos to understand, and I think they do to some extent, but the concept that these gemstones, even though they don't show it as openly, they do form attachments, and they do think of each other in terms of relationships in ways that relate to Phos and Cinnabar, which Phos and Cinnabar are like, oh, I'm going to talk about them. We're going to talk about them. But the fact that Rutile has such an attachment to Pad, has been working so diligently to bring Pad back, kind of ties to the way that Phos feels about Antarcticite and wanting to bring them back. And it also ties, you see the parallels between those two pairings, and then you see the parallels between Phos wanting to become stronger to help Cinnabar, and that relating to Diamond wanting to become stronger to help Bort, and that relating to Zircon wanting to become stronger to be a good partner to Bort. And then you add the idea of Bort and Diamond being worried for each other, so they hold back, relating to Zircon and Yellow Diamond loving each other and holding back. And so it's just, there's all these different connections and all these different angles in which these gemstones, their relationships parallel each other. And it's really, really interesting to me. But man, Rutile, this is the most emotional we've seen them. And says it's because I'm lacking. And I feel bad because all of these gemstones, what Phos is realizing as they interact with them is all these gemstones feel a sense of inadequacy deep down. Diamond, we've seen it. Zircon, we see it in this episode. Phos, we've seen it the whole series. But then Rutile saying that the reason they can't bring Pad back is because of them. And I'm like, I don't think that that's all that there is to it. I think that, you know, it's not just the fact of your skill. And that's when Pad says, or because I've just got no luck. Pad's like, it's just, you know, if I can't overcome your misfortune, what good am I in my purpose? That's what Rutile's saying. It says, what good does my practice serve? But basically Rutile saying, if I can't help you, what good am I? And I'm like, Phos, are you taking notes? Are you seeing this? Because this is what you've been struggling with as well. It's not just you. All these gemstones are struggling. I want to make note as well that when Rutile has the look in their eyes with the big wide eyes, it looks similar to the Lunarian. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm just saying it looks similar. But, I love Pad, their design, their expressions, everything about them. And then they say, oh, someone new. And the way that I love Pad has the open shirt and just walks around with the disheveled open look with all this massive hair like Sailor Galactica. I love it. Everything about, other than Bort, I love Bort's design. It's one of my favorites in the series. Other than Bort, I think Pad has my second favorite design out of all the gemstones. I love it. They said, aren't you the littlest pebble that hangs around the master? Wow. And then we see like little Phos. Man, I miss little Phos, tiny little Phos hanging around. And Phos is like, oh, well. And they're like, you seem different. And a lot has happened. And they're like, oh, these arms are an alloy. Then you're just like me then, you poor thing. And honestly, that moment there is so huge because everyone's been gawking at Phos and saying how good they are, that they've got this stronger arms and stronger legs. But honestly, Pad's one of the first ones to look at them and go, oh, poor you, that you've got this. Like, that's so huge to me that they have this different perspective than everyone else in the series. And then they do the head pats. I love Pads so much. Love their design and everything about them. And their expressions. Instantly Pad, the way that Pad's eyes are, the way they seem to know everything about them has this wisdom to them that is so unique. You must have been through a lot. I love how sensual it is. It's so good. And then, of course, Phos is like, I want to ask you a question because you're one of the eldest gemstones here, like Yellow Diamond. You may know about the Lunarians. And I like that Pad kind of looks at Phos like, okay, you want to ask me a question? Sure. Can I head out? And Rutile's done. Rutile is just over. Rutile is so exhausted from all their surgeries. They just let him go. I'm like, so a new job. We're going to talk about this new job. God. So yeah. Now, the interesting thing is that Pad has one of the strongest designs. They have one of the strongest foundations, but they are constantly missing pieces, which is interesting. And that's when Phos gets to ask about the Lunarians. It almost seems like when Pad asks Phos, like, are you sleeping all right and everything, like they kind of know what is going on, but don't know exactly what Phos is going to ask. Says, I want to try to talk with a Lunarian. And then Phos says, I know the master is hiding something. And what's interesting is that Pad doesn't freak out necessarily like the other gemstones would, but they have a look like, oh, Oh, you're just going to go straight to the point. Okay. All right. Well, are you prepared? Can you handle the truth is what it comes down to. So, for example, the fact, and I like that immediately Pad kind of cuts to the point and realizes why Phos wants to ask the Lunarian because of everything going on with the master. And Pad's like, okay, well, look, think about it this way. The fact that I want Rutile to stop trying to fill in my missing pieces, I want them to just let me be. But if and that smile, I don't know if it's going to be the thumbnail or not, but when Pad's like, look, I want to die. Okay. I don't want to keep being brought back, but I want to make it easier on Rutile. But how would Rutile react if I told them that? Like, Pad's saying, I know that what Rutile is doing is futile, pun intended. I know I'm going to keep slipping back into stasis and that's it. But I also know how much Rutile cares about me. And so if I tell Rutile that, what is that going to do? How would Rutile react if I tell them to stop caring about me? Right? So then Pad said, and I love that darkness, the pure, unbridled truth might harm everyone else around you and could alter those things in ways you would not expect. I like that Pad kind of confronts Phos saying, I know you want to find the truth out, but how is that truth going to affect everyone else? If you find the truth, are you going to tell everyone else? Does everyone else want to know the truth? Are you considering how they would feel about it? Are you considering why the master would not tell us the truth? Is he thinking about that as well? Does he think that it might lead us to do stupid things? He's like, I like that Pad's main thing is like, you need to think before you act. And you need to be sure that's what you want. Oh, I love that. And I love when that could be it too, when it goes back to Pad being like, you need to think first. Keep your composure and think first. Oh, Phos is not very good at doing that. So that's going to be like a test in this manga of, is that going to happen? And then, yeah. And then that's all you get out of Pad. They were here for a grand total of like an hour. And then that's it. And I love Rutile coming back to be like, did you get your answer? And Phos lies and says, we talked about the weather. And I feel like Rutile knows that Phos is lying, but is like, I'm not going to ask because you're clearly not going to tell me. But man, that giant white sheet looking like they're an angel coming out to gather them up. Oh, the imagery in this episode was beautiful. The imagery was stunning and gorgeous. So meanwhile, we have poor Zircon. Zircon with Bortz. I call them Team Honeybee because they have like the same colors. And then Phos is deep in thought. I like that Phos is so deep in thought that they completely let all the butterflies encompass them again. Again, I don't like those butterflies being like kind of a death flag metaphor. And they're yellow, which yellows means caution or warning. So, but I'm starting to feel the master's hiding something from us. Yes, absolutely, 100%. But is it in relation to the Lunarians? Everyone has an unspoken agreement just to trust the master, no matter what the truth might be. This act of faith. And then Cinnabar's like, I'm still figuring out what I want to do. I'm still deciding. And then what are you going to do? I love it. And I love just Phos as they're thinking, all the butterflies encapsulating them. So then poor Zircon. I love to go back to Zircon. Their entire day has just been a wash. They've been just anxious and nervous the entire day from start to finish. And Bort didn't talk to them for a second. But what I like is that Phos, I like that Phos basically tells them, like, the fact that Bort didn't talk to you is not a bad thing. That just means that they didn't have anything bad to say to you. Like, sometimes Bort being silent is better than Bort criticizing you the entire time. Or vice versa, because maybe Bort was just trying to get a handle on Zircon, because they end up giving them some advice later. So maybe Bort was trying to just feel them out first, see what they were going to do, and then give them advice later. Bort's kind of a hard nut to crack, right? They have a hard exterior, just like, you know, their personality. But I love that little grudge, like, ring walk towards Phos. That was hilarious. The thing is, though, these damn gemstones and their intrusive thoughts, and, like, need for self-harm. Please stop. Please stop immediately. Because they're like, man, maybe if I just got rid of my arms too, I would be better off. That's exactly what Daya thought a few episodes ago. And I'm like, no, that's not what you need to do. You don't need to do that. Sometimes you can change yourself without completely reconfiguring. And Phos is like, no, you don't need to change yourself in that extreme a way. You've got serious problems. I love that Phos is like, look, here's the thing. I also like that there are little moments, even though Phos's change into being less innocent is very sad and gets even sadder when we get to the Cinnabar conversation. I do like that Phos isn't gone completely. And there are moments like when Phos is talking with Zircon that it shows that Phos has just grown up and has matured, but it's still Phos underneath all of that. They still are a kind soul, even if their bones are jaded, you know? And so then Phos talks about, I let others pick up the slack for my baseless and naive notions. Phos being like, back then I wasn't able to fight for myself and learn and be independent. I was relying on others far too much. And it led me to losing others, which is kind of the lesson that Bort gives to Zircon, being like, you depend too much on Yellow Diamond to pick up your slack. You need to pick up your own slack and be your own person. And Phos had to learn this lesson the hard way, which is really sad. Your biggest weakness is Yellow Diamond, and you're always on the edge of fearing of losing them. And Bort's like, we don't care for each other that much, so we can work together and it's fine. Which gives me a little bit of worry, because like Bort being like, look, I'm not in love with you, so we can work together and it's totally cool because we're not going to be afraid of losing each other to the point of making mistakes and being reckless. That does give me a little bit of concern about Cinnabar and Phos, because I think they do like each other and I think it could lead to accidents happening. But then again, Phos and Antarcticite weren't in a relationship and they didn't love each other that way and they still lost each other, so who knows? Who knows? I do like the fact, the scene of Yellow Diamond and Rutile, where Rutile calls Yellow Diamond and them senile, that was hilarious. And I love Yellow Diamond being like, old me, hilarious, chasing them down. And then I left Zircon with Bort, part of the trial and error attempt to find a suitable partner for Bort. And Yellow Diamond, what I do like is that Yellow Diamond is a little bit more mature than regular Daya, because they see that Bort will be fine with Zircon. They're not jealous. They don't feel left out. Yellow Diamond knows that they have their own strengths and that they're fine. What's sad is that Yellow Diamond feels, it's kind of the opposite of Daya. Daya feels that they're not adequate enough to work with Bort. And so they feel inadequate, and that's why they're kind of jealous of when others work with Bort, because they're like, oh, why can't it be me? Why can't I be stronger? Yellow Diamond doesn't view themselves as weak, but they view themselves as bad luck and that they're inadequate as a partner. And so it's a different sense of anxiety and a different sense of self-loathing in a sense. But I like that this show points out that there's lots of different ways we can doubt ourselves. Lots of different ways we can feel sad. And so it's not just a universal feeling. But man, and Daya, Yellow Diamond looking over and seeing Zircon and smiling. Like, I absolutely love Yellow Diamond's character so much. But that moment where they're sitting next to Pad in the coffin, literally in the coffin, and saying that Bort would never bungle things and lose partners like I have. And then looking down at Pad, who does not look sad to be left out of this world. And that whole scene where like the sunlighting and everything, when Yellow Diamond says, tell me it's not a bad choice to put them together. I'm tired from thinking so long about this. And then I'm looking down at them and saying, hey, can I lie down next to you? That was really dark. Really dark. Because it's kind of suggesting that Yellow Diamond, in a way, is like, I'm tired of being worried about being a burden on everyone and putting them in danger. Maybe it would be better if I just retired and laid down with you and didn't fight. And I'm like, all these diamonds, all these gems with intrusive thoughts. Y'all need to stop it. It's really sad. So yeah, so Yellow Diamond's helping Alex in the moment. Yellow Diamond is helping Alex, and Phos wants to know more about the Lunarians. Also, the fact that we cut to Phos with gathering up all the papers that have flung away, geological structures, and there's the tree. Like, oh, it's not a tree. I thought Phos was standing next to a tree in that scene with the sunset gathering the papers. No, their arm has branched out gathering the missing papers, and it looks like a tree. That's what it was. Well, there you go. I was incorrect about that. But also the fact that it's a tree with 3 branches. What's interesting is you have the 3 species, the bone, the flesh, and the spirit. And then you have the 3 branches jutting out, but then one of those branches has another offshoot. So it's kind of like, is it suggesting that Phos is like this evolution of that, or this 4th kind offshoot? Also, I feel bad for Phos, because Phos is like, I knew all of this at one time, but because of the changes that I've gone through, I've forgotten. And, you know, why did I forget all of this? I feel bad for Phos in that sense, that they just are like, why has my memory been tampered with? And it's like, well, because you've changed. You've gained. And then we go back to teaching Phos and all of them, like all the other little gemstones, looking over. But Phos certainly has a kind heart. There is a part of me that really likes Phos's new design, and there's a part of me that really likes that Phos is growing as a character and is more layered. I love that, but there's always going to be a part of me that is sad that their innocence was taken away. There's always going to be a part of me that hates that. So also, my question is, what is Red Barrel going to think when they find out that Alex has taken the Master's clothes? Because I don't find that, would Red Barrel have given Alex a set of the Master's clothes? Could have possibly. Would the Master have let Alex take a pair of his clothes? I don't know. Possibly. We'll see. I don't know. But I do like Alex in the clothes. They look really good. But yeah. Is this like a trivia format? I mean, I like them in the robes and everything doing the trivia. And then finally, when they're wore down, that's when Phos asks about the Lunarians. Do you like the Lunarians? And Alex is like, no. We find out that I'm not only trying to overcome my condition. Before you were born, they stole Chrysoberyl away from me. So again, we have this idea connecting to Phos and Antarcticite. Just like Phos is trying to get Antarcticite back, and it's made them be slightly obsessive with trying to find the truth about the Lunarians, Alex has poured themselves into finding out the truth and the understanding of the Lunarians in their own way, because they want to get justice for their friend going. But not only get justice, they don't want to forget how much they miss them and how much they mean to them. So for Alex, doing all this research is a way of them honoring Chrysoberyl and not forgetting about them. And in a sense, that's kind of like the way that Phos has done their hair, and the way they've taken on this role is their way of remembering Antarcticite. So the only thing I will say about this series is I wish that we would see Phos connecting these dots and internalizing and realizing this. And my fear is that Phos will realize this all too late. But we'll see where that goes. We'll see where that goes, right? But in any case, they're like, that's why I spend every day thinking about them. So I never forget that fresh feeling of hatred. And Phos talks about it being fresh. I wonder what Phos means about that as well. If Phos is saying like, am I ever going to forget about Antarcticite? Do I need to keep up the way that I act to remember them? I'm curious, because a lot of things that Phos has, done throughout this series has been replaced or forgotten. So maybe they're worried about this. I don't like the fact that these Lunarians can show up at twilight, though, or at dusk. I thought it had to be, completely sunny outside for that to work. But that does not seem to be the case. And I'm like, I was like, why are these Lunarians showing up right now? That seems dangerous. But yeah, so Cinnabar. We start out with Phos, we end with Cinnabar. Cinnabar's softness is a 2. A 2. Very opposite of Bort. But the mercury, the acidity, and the toxicness of it is what makes it work. Formula is mercury sulfide. A sulfide mineral. Interesting. So yeah, we get the Lunarian showing up. This Lunarian, though, looked like it had a veil over its head, too. Like it was a new type. So that's interesting. And then Phos realizes they don't have their sword. Honestly, the best part about Phos's expression in this episode is them getting their old, like, oh shit expression back. Like, I like when Phos kind of has a little bit more of their own self back. And they manage to capture one of the Lunarians and try to ask about it, saying, do you understand me? And the moment the Lunarian has, like, its eyes look down at Phos. What? I want to know. I instantly was like, I am intrigued. I want to know what's going on. But yeah, so then Cinnabar shows up. And Cinnabar, I don't know if the mercury was just looking like gold because of the sunset and the sunlight reflecting on it, but it did look more like the gold alloy that Phos uses in that moment than its own mercury. But I don't know if that's the case or if it was just, I don't know what that is. Anyway, what a crazy moment. And Phos wanted to find out, but Mercury's like, yeah, I really don't want to let you die. So I got to destroy all of it for it to work. And Phos is like, you saved me. And Cinnabar's like, yeah, Kay. I feel bad because Cinnabar just walks away. And I'm like, no, stay and talk, damn it. Also, their little globules don't look as, like, spiky and rigid as they're walking away. It looked more like globs of gold or alloy. So, does Mercury absorb golden alloy and break it down? I don't know. And that's when Phos is like, a new job. Like, okay. Thinking about the new job. We're going to go back and talk about that here in a second. But yeah, them showing the figure of Cinnabar. This conversation was so sad. It was so sad. Also, love the little ankles. The ankle shot of Cinnabar, just doing the little, They have dainty, fragile ankles. And they said it's time for work. Waiting on the Lunarians to come and get them. But then we look back, and I wondered what it was at first. I forgot about the clipboard. The clipboard with the name and the new job. And back when Phos was searching for them something to do, to make their life better, to try to make things better for them. I just... I thought it was pages from Alex at first, but that's not the case at all. And then as they go up, of course, it almost seems like when Cinnabar climbs up and sees Phos there, Cinnabar's like, I don't want to talk to you because I don't want to face you right now. And I'm terrified of what you're going to be asking for me. Seeing Cinnabar being this animated was hilarious. I'm like, you have it in you. Cinnabar is a damn tsundere, but they have it in them. And then Phos trying to use the net to capture them. A terrible sense of foreboding. But of course, Cinnabar being just, angsty as always. And being dragged to the edge. And Phos is like, I found it. A job for you. This being like the ultimatum on the cliff. Oh my God, this scene. Because it's not that Phos forgot about the job. They figured it out. They're like, I know what you can do. You can help me figure out about the Lunarians. I want you to help me. And in that moment, this is the heartbreaking moment of the whole series. Because Phos is just like, wait a second. By helping you. Because on the one hand, I was like, oh, good. Phos is wanting Cinnabar's help. And they're like equals in this moment. Phos is like, you and I are on the same level. Let's help each other. Let's find out about the Lunarians. And on the one hand, you want to be like, oh, finally, yes, good. But then that's when Cinnabar brings up this part. What about it being fun? Is it fun? And Phos is like, what? they're like, what about the fun part? And that's the heartbreak. Is it Cinnabar's like, you didn't say it's fun. He says, I'm going to find you something more fun than the night watch that only you can do. That's the... Cinnabar is like, what you told me was that you were going to find me a better job, a job where I could be happy, and it would be something unique to me, and that was your goal. And Cinnabar reveals, they're like, that's what I loved about that, was that you were trying to help me be a better person, and that you wanted to put me above yourself, and just, you're doing this out of kindness and to help me. But what you're asking for now is selfish. It's for me to help you accomplish your goal because we're equals. And it's not because you want me to have fun and a better life, but because you figured out, oh, I can help you do this. So it's almost like Cinnabar saying, like, how are you different than the master? How are you different than anybody else? And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking in this moment. It's like, you're not concerned about us being happy or being fun. Now it's just, you're so obsessed with this truth and trying to figure it out. And, oh, it's heartbreaking. It broke my heart in the moment. I was like, are you kidding me? And yeah, and then the waves rise up. And the fact that Cinnabar has this blush on their face, oh, yeah, isn't that what you told me? And Phos is like, well, but this won't be fun. There's 0% chance of fun. I feel like in that moment, Phos doesn't get what, and they say they're sorry, but Phos is like, the job I want you to help me with would be uncovering the truth about the Master and the Lunarians. And Cinnabar's like, that's not the point at all. And Phos is like, yeah, I know. You asked me what I planned on doing, and this is it. Phos is like, I'm so obsessed with figuring this truth out, I can't have fun and move forward until I know for sure. Phos is Icarus, flying as close to the sun as they can, or in this case, as close to the moon as they can. And Cinnabar's like, I tried to get to the truth of it all. The more I questioned it, though, the more everything the master did seemed off. So much that I can't even tell if I'm looking at anything the right way anymore. What's so sad about this is also when Phos is like, I'm going to find a way for you not to go to the moon. I'm going to find a way for you not to go to the moon. I don't want you to sacrifice yourself. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I'm going to find a way that you can stay here and be happy with me, and we can just live our lives and it'll all be okay. But now that has twisted so much and transformed into Phos saying, well, you know what? Actually, I kind of want to go to the moon too. And you know what? Maybe you were right, Cinnabar. And you can help me. And, you know, you're going to get what you wanted. You're going to end your life possibly, but it'll help us uncover the truth. And then I can die in peace. And that's changed so much. And Phos has gone from someone that's like, well, I don't have to have a purpose as long as you and I are happy, to I'm obsessed and have this purpose and I can't sleep until I get to the bottom of it. And it's just, here's my heart. Fling it out. And questioning everything. And they're just in this state of disarray. They're so different than they were. And I want you to be there with me to offer your opinion. And there's a part of this that is good because it's Phos trusting Cinnabar and Phos wanting to be with Cinnabar. But it's so different than what Cinnabar was relying on back when that promise was first made. And you can just feel that distance. You can just feel that sadness. It's just so apparent. And then Cinnabar's like, then what? If it turns out the master's done something unforgivable, what are you going to do about it? And of course, Phos hasn't thought that far. And Cinnabar's like, well, how can I help you if you don't even know what you're going to do? Ugh. This is so sad. And then I hate when characters say, I knew it. I knew you were awfully prudent and clever. But I mean, Cinnabar's not wrong. What are you going to do? And they're like, that's why I need you to help with me. I need you to be there because I'm going to get to a point where I don't know what to do. It's very selfish. It's so selfish of Phos to request that. And it's so opposite of that original promise that it hurts so much. And Phos is like, I'm not going to stop until you agree. And the sad thing is that Cinnabar loves Phos. Cinnabar loves them. And so we have two different moments. We have Phos so focused on, was the Lunarian trying to speak? Was its eye color some sort of reaction? Phos is so obsessed, they're not thinking of Cinnabar anymore. Which is so sad that they're just thinking of using Cinnabar with this job that it's transformed from that original moment. And Phos is so obsessed. I don't know why I thought I'd figure things out if I just met one. But I have a long way to go. The closer I get to an answer, the more questions I uncover. It's this classic, it's right in front of you, Phos. The answers to everything you want are right in front of you, but you're just completely forsaking them for this truth. And that's why. And then we cut to Cinnabar, who sees the clipboard from that day. And Cinnabar's like, I just want to be free of the night. But it won't happen. Oh, that animation on their eye is gorgeous, by the way. It's like 2 seconds, but it's so good. And I refuse to believe Phos. Well, now Cinnabar says I refuse to believe him. We don't know who that's talking about necessarily. But, and that's when Cinnabar speaks up. We go back to that moment. And we see them standing there on the moon. If you just wanted to team up, it would be fine. Cinnabar, Cinnabar, Cinnabar. Cinnabar is so in love with Phos. And they know that Phos isn't how they normally are. But them being like, you know what? I'm going to team up with you. Because I don't want... And I wonder if Cinnabar's going to try to help Phos get back to where they once were. In their own way. So we go back to Rutile, gathering up all the things, looking back at Pad. We don't know what's going to happen with Pad. Yellow Diamond's hanging out with Alex, which I like that team up a lot. I also love that I love that Yellow Diamond, in true, middle-aged fashion, uses the plushes of the Lunarians for hip and neck support. Red Barrel's excited to have Amethyst have their new clothes, which is great. And then I love Onyx's design. Onyx is one of my favorite designs too. They're so cute. And then Daya with the little plush. I'm glad Daya's doing okay. Bort is with Zircon, helping them. I love that we go back and see these other gemstones. It all ties back. I liked the book ending as well. But also, what I liked is that with Cinnabar and Phos, we started out the first episode with Phos being like, I'm not going to give up until I help Cinnabar get out of this rut. And now we flip the script and Cinnabar's like, I'm not going to give up until I help you get out of this rut. So it's just it's a reversal of the two of them. Of course, we end with the Master going to talk to Phos. And we don't know what about, but it's a complete reversal. We see Morga and Gaucher asking Phos at the beginning, and we see it all tie back together. And we go from... What's so sad is we go from Phos saying, seeing Phos be like, oh, my hair's cute. And being so excited in that moment. And being such a precious little bean. To Phos being this, battle-hardened person now. That is completely different. It's so sad. I'm oddly envious of myself then. For picking up the slack. So keep your composure. And think first. Oh, I love it. I love that moment so much. And it leads us to believe that, that we're about to have this moment where the Master talks with Phos. Oh. Oh. It's so good. Ah! Damn it. And they leave us off without knowing what's going to happen next. How dare they? How dare they? Anyway. And then we leave on our little island, our little moon-shaped island. Moon-shaped like the Lunarians, as one does. I can't wait for the manga now. Damn it. The end card, of course, is just Phos in their new state, as one would be. I'm really excited to see where this series goes, but I'm really glad that I'm reading the manga and not having to wait because So yeah, so like I said, I'm going to be looking at volumes 1 through 4 on my own time over the next week or two. This is getting recorded a little bit early, so that gives me a little bit of time. And then hopefully, given as soon as my internet situation or I figure out a way to do it, I will be reviewing volumes 1 through 4 and reacting to volume 5 in a video that will come out hopefully next week, but it depends on the internet situation, but I will get it out. It will be on Saturdays. So hopefully by the February update video, I'll have more information. But thank you so much for joining me on the anime journey. I hope you stick with me for the manga journey. I know manga reactions are a little different than anime ones, but I hope you stick with me and I hope you check out the manga with me. It's going to be a good time. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah! We'll be back very soon with more, thankfully, Land of the Lustrous. Bye.